Oh, this is going to be an interesting one.
Oh, seriously?
Hey guys, and welcome to another Ork Tactics video with myself, 6+ Stevo. In this one, we're going to be looking at one of my all-time favourite units, the Tankbustas. They come in at 110 points for a unit of 5, and their stat line is as follows. Movement, 6 inches. Toughness, 5, 5+ save, 1 wound, except for the knob, who has 2, leadership 7+, and an objective control of 1. Very, very standard Ork boy stat line there. They have the keywords infantry and tankbusters. So, oh dear, tankbusters. It's not all bad. Let's just get that out to start with. Things have improved somewhat. If you remember my previous data card videos from the Ork Index earlier this edition, things were really not good for the Tankbusters. They were vastly overcosted. The good news is that cost has come down quite considerably. I think they were like 135 or something ludicrous before. They've now dropped to 110. Still, in my opinion, a little bit overcosted. I think you could easily knock another 10 points off that, and still there's still not going to be an auto-include by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the thing is, some of you looking at this that have not been around through some of the early editions, through 8th and 9th, won't know just how good Tankbusters used to be. And they really did used to be really good. In 8th edition, they were quite incredible on the table. They really were. And it took a little while for the community to sort of realise that. The looters were the hotness for quite a while. But once people started looking at Tankbusters and realising what they were capable of, and usually having been on the receiving end of it, they gained a new appreciation for Tankbusters. And they really were good over 8th edition. In 9th edition, they were good as well. They tweaked them slightly, but they were still good. And then 10th came around and GW did them dirty. They stripped away all the options, literally all of the options. They have no options now. And yeah, it's a real shame to see. But there is still a little bit of goodness to have out of this, guys, which we'll talk about. So let's take a look at it. The abilities, what have we got? We've got the ability Tank Hunters. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets a monster or a vehicle unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. That's very powerful. Very powerful indeed. So they're going to be against vehicles or monsters. They're going to be hitting on 4s. So you're getting grot ballistic skill there. That's absolutely beautiful. And on the wound roll as well, that's going to be really nice because they've got rocket launchers, strength 9, they pack a punch, but as we all know now, a lot of the monsters and vehicles in the game have got a lot tougher. So having a +1 to hit, +1 to wound rather, is really going to up the damage potential of these weapons, and I think that's very welcome. We've still got bomb squigs. Twice per battle, after this unit ends a normal move, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches of it and roll 1d6. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Bomb squigs are awesome, absolutely beautiful. It's a lovely little bonus, a lovely way to throw out some mortal wounds, a fairly reliable way as well, because you're only looking for a 2+. I would have preferred d6 rather than D3. D3 seems a little bit lackluster because you've got to get close. You've got to get within 12 inches. It says twice per battle. The chances are that you're probably only going to be able to get this off once per battle. I think it's going to be very unlikely you're going to get a chance to use both your bomb squigs. You might do, but I think if you do use these guys, you'll see over a series of games that once they've used that first one, by the next turn, they're usually tied up in combat or dead. It's highly unlikely that your little unit of 5 Tankbusters are still going to be alive after throwing out some mortal wounds. The opponent's going to make sure they're dead, and it's going to be fairly easy to kill them. And that's the big problem with this unit now, or one of the big problems with this unit, is you are restricted to a 5-man squad. And that's just sad. They used to be able to be anything from 5 to 15. And, it was beautiful to behold a full unit of 15 Tankbustas unleashing their fire. Any vehicle on the board was as good as dead if they came in within range of these gits. Now, restricting them to 5 in itself is not necessarily a huge issue, but the big problem with that is it affects their survivability. Their weapons are fairly short range, as we'll get into later. And 5 Ork boys is incredibly easy to kill. It's, they've got a 5+ save. Yeah, they've got the toughness 5, but there's 5 of them. Stiff breeze is going to kill this unit. So you have to be incredibly stealthy with this unit. You've got to be really careful with how you use them, because if the enemy targets them, they're dead. But you've got to put yourself within threat range to be able to unleash the threat of these guys. So, you've really got to use this unit with some finesse now. The other problem is that the complete lack of options, or the forced weapon options that we used to have as options are now forced upon us. So within this 5-man unit, one of them has to have a pair of rocket pistols. We'll go over the stats of that in a minute, but and another one has to have a tank hammer. So in each 5-man unit, you've only got 3 of them with rocket launchers. So 3 rockets, it's not that impressive. Yeah, they do have the blast keyword and stuff. So if you're shooting at large mobs and things, you're going to get extra shots, which is nice. But that's not what they're designed for. They're designed to be targeting vehicles and monsters. But just 3 rockets, it doesn't pack enough of a punch, especially if you're taking on something really, really big. If you're firing at land raiders and above and things like that, you really need more bang for your buck than that. And that's where the Tankbustas used to be really good. A big mob of 10 or 15 Tankbustas all loosing their rockets off on a tank would pretty much guarantee destroying that tank. Now, they're going to put the hurt on it. They're going to cause a few wounds, but single-handedly on their own, they're not going to be enough. They're going to need other units to throw their weight of fire in there as well. Which is true of a lot of Ork units, actually, especially when it comes to shooting, is you don't expect too much for any one particular unit on its own. You need to sort of get a few units together, all targeting the same unit, and combine their firepower to bring something down. But let's take a look at these weapon stats then. We've got the pair of rocket pistols. Boo! They are a pistol weapon, and they are twin-linked. So twin-linked means you get to re-roll the wounds. Okay, that's quite nice. We would have much preferred re-rolling the hit, especially with Ork ballistic skill. It's nice that they can shoot them in combat, that they're pistols. That is handy. So they've got a 12-inch range. You only get 1 shot. Hitting on a 5. Strength 7. Ugh. AP -1. Ugh. And damage D3. I never took rocket pistols in my old Tankbusters, and I think they've got their uses. I don't think they're a crap weapon, but you just don't want them. You just want another rocket launcher. I would far rather just have rocket launchers than rocket pistols. And speaking of which, the rocket launcher. It's an absolutely beautiful weapon and welcome in any Ork army. The rocket launcher has the blast keyword. 24-inch range. It gets D3 shots. It hits on 5+. It is strength 9. Lovely jubbly. AP -2 and a flat damage of 3. Rockets have been so good for so long now. They're still great. We absolutely love rockets. Now, the good thing about the rockets, having the blast keyword, is that in the hands of a Tankbuster, they're good against vehicles, they're good against monsters, but they're also good against those large mobs with that blast keyword. If you're shooting at mobs of like 20... in large mobs, then you're going to be getting a lot of shots out of these guys, and their damage potential goes up massively. The only things they're kind of weak against would be some of them smaller units where they won't benefit from the blast keyword, but if you're firing against even sort of smaller, more elite units with high armor, these are still going to be good. That damage 3 and that AP -2 means you're going to miss with most of it, but what you do hit is likely to have a very bad day. Then we go into the melee weapons. You've got the close combat weapons. I'm not even going to bother going into it. Who cares? We've got the tank hammer. Again, your next compulsory weapon option within the unit. So it is anti-vehicle 5+. Okay, that's cool. I don't think that'll come into it very well. No, actually, looking at the strength of it, it will come into it, actually. It's got devastating wounds, very tidy, and hazardous. So it's no longer a case. The tank hammer used to be very much a suicidal weapon. You use it, you die, but it causes big damage. Now you've just got a risk of it going off, which is a bit odd. So these tank hammers, they've got a live rocket strapped to a pole and they're smashing the side of a tank with it. It doesn't guarantee that it's going to go off. So yeah, you've just got the hazardous rule on them now, which I think, I don't know, it kind of makes sense. The universal rule, they're hazardous. It was kind of ready to go for this weapon, but it does make the weapon perhaps a little bit less interesting to use. Anyway, you get 2 attacks with it. It hits on 3s, strength 7, AP -1, and a damage of D3. So we're sort of around the sort of big chopper kind of feel here. It's random damage and that. I think I would have preferred the tank hammer to be much more volatile, but also provide a lot more damage. I would say it's fairly underwhelming. It's just a sort of a more random version of a big chopper with a hazardous rule. So yeah, it's all right, but again, like the rocket pistols, I would much rather just have another rocket launcher. The rocket launchers are just so much better. I'll tell you what other options I would have liked, actually, is the option to have all of them with the same. I would like to have the option to have all the Tankbusters with rocket pistols, or all with tank hammers, or all with rocket launchers. I wish they'd just left the rule where you could just swap out whatever you wanted and you could just kit them out. You could have tank busters that specialise in getting in up close and just smashing, suicidally running into tank. That would be a fun as hell unit to use. It would be terrifying for your opponent, loads of randomness. And rocket pistols would be quite cool as well. More close range and being able to shoot it within combat and things would be cool. But yeah, we are where we are with this unit. But how do we get the most out of this unit? Well, there is ways to do it. One way is to have them in a dread mob. Dread mob is the detachment, I think, that best suits these. So you can put a mech boy in with this unit. They're then going to benefit from the try dat button rule, which will up their shooting potential and combat potential in random ways. But you could end up with sustained hits, which is always going to be welcome with rockets. Lethal hits is, again, always going to be good. Or the critical AP. If you get critical hits, getting that bonus to your AP of an extra 2. So suddenly, like, your rockets become AP -4. Yes, please. All pretty nice. So yeah, that's one way to be able to put a mech in with them and then benefit from the Dread Mob detachment rules. Obviously, the Warhorde is always something, no matter what the unit, that's going to benefit them. It's always going to be welcome. But yeah, your real battle with these guys is in keeping them alive. How do you do that? Well, you could put them in terrain, which is kind of a way I've used to use them in older days, especially in larger squads. But with a 5-man squad in a bit of terrain, you're getting +1 to your cover. Look, who gives a shit? They're still dead. That isn't going to do dick. They are going to be dead. If your opponent wants them dead, they're going to be dead. So you have to keep these guys out of threat range until you're ready to unleash those rockets. And I think the only way you're really going to be able to do that is by like hugging cover, or line of sight blocking terrain. You want to be doing that, keeping them out of sight. So they never mind getting a bonus to your save. They ain't going to do nothing. You want to keep them completely out of range so they cannot be targeted. Or you could put them in a truck or a battle wagon. This can be quite good. I've had some quite good results from this, putting them in a truck. Having 2 units of them within a truck can be quite nice. And then you can benefit, if you then fix up the truck with a mech boy, you can then benefit from the truck's increased ballistic skill with the tank busters. That can be really rather nice with them. And then your other option is to hold them in reserve and bring them on later on in the game at a point where they can target the unit, hit it hard, and then most likely die the next turn. Because that's the sad truth of Tankbusters, and they've always been a glass hammer, but now they are glassier than glassy, fragile, shattery, ornamental things. Yeah, they're going to die, people. Tankbusters are going to die. Your job is to make them do their job before they die. So yeah, I would opt for holding them in reserve or putting them inside a truck, or just being really, really sneaky and taking your time with them, hiding behind bits of terrain and that, hoping your opponent forgets about them until the last possible moment when you can unleash rockety death. But yeah, are they good? I don't think you're ever going to really see these in competitive play. I don't think you're going to see these in meta lists and things, at least not for the time being, not unless their points drop quite drastically. But are they useless? No. They are good. They just take a little bit of a finesse to use. And I think in some ways, it makes them quite a rewarding unit to use. Sometimes a unit can be so good on paper and such a good stunt line, or so tanky, that you can just plonk them down on the table, march them headlong into enemy fire, shit bounces off them. And yeah, it can feel good in the short term, but it can often feel quite unrewarding. And you perhaps don't really feel like you've done much. The unit's done all the work. You've just put it there and it's done what it does. Survived a load of damage and done a load of damage. Whereas Tankbusters, they have the potential to give out some nice damage and do good things only after you have used them well and tactically. And I think that does actually make them quite a rewarding, fun unit to use, actually. Because when they do work, it's nice. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to make some of these sort of weaker units within our codex work well. But yeah, there you go, guys. Tankbusters. What do you think about them? Do you think that they have any merit at all? Do you think that they're worth trying out in your lists? Or do you think I'm just being way too kind to these guys and way too soft on them? I think they're okay. I still like them, but I like them a lot less than I used to. I wish we still had those options that we used to have. Oh, I really do wish. And I do wish we had a new kit for them. But anyway, this video's gone on long enough, guys. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. But look, before I close this video, we need to figure out what video we're doing next. Well, we've done the Tankbusters, so let's do the unit that's probably going to be a lot more popular for all your shooting needs. The Looters. Join me on that one, guys. This is 6+ Stevo, signing out.